This audio-visual piece will explore the controversial topic of justice and the Holocaust, particularly the post-war trials of those who helped facilitate and perpetrate the Holocaust. This will assert the position that while in some circumstances those responsible for the Holocaust were brought to trial and faced justice for their horrific crimes, in general, many who played a part in the Holocaust, ranging from both individuals to organizations, were not adequately punished for their crimes and were instead absolved of their guilt by both courts and society, presenting a major miscarriage of justice. While the main group associated with the Holocaust and the destruction of Europe's Jewry has historically been Nazi Germany's Schutzstaffel, otherwise known as the SS, such a perception is inherently flawed. While it is true that the SS did play a major role in the slaughter of Jews, while on campaign in Russia and in their position as guards at concentration and death camps, they were far from the only ones to actively engage in the extermination of Jews. Germany's Wehrmacht played a massive role in the slaughter of the Jewish people, one that has been underrepresented since the Second World War ended. German army units often partook in the massacre of Jews alongside Einsatzgruppen, yet very few rank-and-file German troops were tried for their crimes during the Nuremberg trials, and subsequently smaller litigation actions, unlike members of the SS who had many of their members convicted for their crimes. In the aftermath of the Second World War, a concerted effort was made by the German government and military with the assistance of the Western Allies to rehabilitate the image of the Wehrmacht so as to construct a national identity for West Germans and to help reintegrate war veterans into society, so as to act as a bulwark against the Soviet Union. By allowing historical recidivism to change its perception of the past and avoid its share of the guilt of the Holocaust, German society as a whole was implicit in allowing the perpetrators of the Holocaust to avoid justice. By attempting to minimize the role played by the Wehrmacht in the Holocaust and portray the military as being innocent of any crimes for politically expedient reasons such as to avoid conflict, any attempt to ensure justice for the victims of the Holocaust falls through and stands as proof of the hypocrisy of those sworn to uphold justice. During the Nuremberg trials in the aftermath of the Second World War, an assorted group of American, British, French, and Russian prosecutors attempted to determine which Germans were guilty of committing war crimes and bringing them to justice. This enormous undertaking had major consequences for those guilty of playing a role in the Holocaust, being both positive and negative in terms of attempting to punish such parties. A major development of the proceedings was that the concept of crimes against humanity was incorporated into Article 6c of the Nuremberg Charter. This development allowed for the prosecution of those who were found guilty of crimes against humanity in their actions towards the Jews, supporting the concept of justice. Many key figures involved in the Holocaust of varying degrees, amongst them high-ranking members of the Nazi Party, the SS, and the Wehrmacht, such as Hermann Göring, Alfred Jodl, and Wilhelm Keitel, were found to be guilty of crimes against humanity and executed. As well as these notable figures in German society, many low-ranking Nazis and camp officials were tried and found guilty of helping facilitate the Holocaust, with some being sentenced to death and others imprisonment. Despite these efforts to punish the parties responsible for the slaughter of the Jews, decisions such as the choice to discount survivors' testimonies in place of official documents led to many who were guilty avoiding detection and escaping punishment. Due to a decision by Robert H. Jackson, one of the key attorneys, to have crimes against humanity be understood as part of making an unjust or illegal war, much of the pre-war persecution of Jewish communities was not covered under the concept of crimes against humanity. As such, many crimes committed against the Jews as part of the Holocaust were unable to be tried in a court of law, suggesting that efforts to bring those guilty to justice were flawed from the very beginning. In more recent years, the push for restitution on the behalf of the suffering and grand larceny imposed on the Jew during the Holocaust came to be seen as a conundrum in regards to justice. Historically, the parties deemed as being most responsible for and benefiting the most from the wholesale theft imposed on the Jewish communities of Europe were the large businesses that backed the Nazi regime, such as Siemens and IG Farben, as well as government offices and organizations, groups that have typically been the defendants in restitution cases. However, in truth, no aspect of German society failed to benefit from the Nazis' acquisition of Jewish property in some shape or form. As a result of the distribution of appropriated Jewish property to the German public, German society as a whole is guilty for this aspect of the Holocaust, creating a moral and ethical dilemma in regards to how justice should be applied to the people of Germany, many of whom have no direct link to the Holocaust unlike their forefathers. This issue has plagued attempts to bring those guilty of enriching themselves at the cost of Jews to justice, further demonstrating the lack of success in attempting to provide justice for victims of the Holocaust. While some of those responsible for the Holocaust were to varying degrees brought to justice and punished for their heinous crimes, many were able to avoid such a fate. Many instead were allowed to go free by the grace of both judicial choice and socio-political decisions. Hence many guilty parties were able to circumvent justice. The true tragedy of this failure by international courts and the trials held in the post-war period to apprehend those who committed the many crimes of the Holocaust is not that many who were guilty were able to avoid justice, but that they can now longer be tried for their crimes due to the passage of time. As such, there can no longer be absolute justice for the myriad of victims of the Holocaust.